The 1960s were times of political upheaval around the world, as the Cold War raged over conflicting ideologies, democracy and communism. While the United States played crusader for democracy and civil rights, its government oppressed the very people it was responsible for protecting. Among those were Mexican Americans. As a result, Mexican Americans joined the national quest for civil rights. They led protests, fought important court battles, and built social and political movements that would change the course of their history in the United States, and in the process, lead them to develop the Chicano identity. Key in first sparking this new political and social awareness were the East Los Angeles student demands and walkouts. On March 6, 1968, thousands of Chicano students at Wilson Garfield, Roosevelt, and East Los Angeles high schools marched out of classrooms to demand a change in the education system. They began a series of protests against the Los Angeles Unified School District that became known as the East Los Angeles Walkouts. During these walkouts, students boycotted classes and took the streets to protest poor quality of education, unfair treatment in the school system, but more importantly, the racism and cultural repression they faced. As part of their plan of action, students composed the demands made by the East Side High School students, a document with 38 requests to the school district's Board of Education. Aside from presenting grievances against poor educational conditions and cultural repression, the document also revealed Mexican American youth's resistance to assimilation and desire to reclaim their history and culture within Anglo American society. During the 1960s, many high schools throughout the country had developed absurd rules that sought to suppress Chicano culture, such as prohibiting the use of Spanish in the classroom. The violation of this rule demanded janitorial duties and corporal punishments. In an attempt to bring this practice of cultural shaming to an end, the student demands called for punishment to be administered according to state law, which did not demand corporal punishment for speaking Spanish in the classroom. The students also demanded for the inclusion of their culture into education by requesting for teachers to receive education on Mexican culture and learn Spanish to increase their understanding of the history, traditions, and contributions of the Mexican people. They also called for the rewriting and redesigning of textbooks and curriculum to show Mexican and Mexican American contribution to the U.S. society and to show the injustices that Mexicans had suffered as a culture of that society. It is then evident through these demands that a new desire to reclaim the culture and history of their ancestors was born among young Chicanos. Although a number of Mexican Americans, especially youths, identified themselves as Chicanos, most Mexican Americans still clung to their diluted white roots. However, as the walkouts transformed into a greater movement, the realization that Mexicans faced racism because of their off-white complexion also became widespread. The Chicano community began to take action against the more than obvious systemic racism and turned their non-white status into a badge of pride. Instrumental in the reclaiming of brown identity during the East LA walkouts were the Brown Berets, the militant force behind the walkouts who promoted the rise of brown power and the notion of a brown race and finding beauty in it. The walkouts represent a pivotal moment in Chicano Latino history in the United States because they mark the beginnings of consolidation of social awareness and responsibility among the community as well as a new identity, the Chicano identity. The historical significance of the walkouts extends beyond initiating a call for the improvement of education in the Los Angeles Unified School District and the reclaiming of pride over culture. The walkouts and the student demands reshaped the Chicano and Latino experiences in the United States by initiating and setting the stage for the Chicano movement. The walkouts transformed Mexican Americans into empowered Chicanos, people with political power and influence.